one a year later perhaps. These are old permanent classrooms. They're in all great shape. They've all been renovated. The roofs are fine. The HVACs are fine. This is a multi-purpose cafeteria room. We have a library in this area. And then phase 2 would include the final classrooms down here. In phase 1, we would also move some special needs classes, and we'd move them into this area here. And these portables are also renovated and in good shape with air conditioning, heating, good roofs. We've been cleaning those out because they were used for storage in some cases. It's a great little sub-community. If you haven't been there, I'd love to give you a tour. It's so serene and peaceful out there. It's just a really neat place to be. One other comment I would have is we have a field here that is part of a redevelopment agency project, so it's a joint use with the Veranda community. So what we propose for this next school year is we would be in the green with programs or with storage or more renovation. We're going to keep some MCOE folks over here until we complete the renovation and expand the school over a period of years. The nice thing about moving MCOE to this side is there's a separate entry here, and so they don't impact into the parking lot with traffic or with parking. Now if we do option 1, and option 1 basically is to defer the big decision to the next superintendent and to defer it into the next school year, not 15-16, but 16-17. We would still look at taking some special needs classes and consolidating them here as a possibility. Give us an office, a staff lounge, and some rooms with bathrooms and a play area.
District special ed classes you're talking about?
District.
Preschool. That's option 1?
Preschool. No, that goes through all 3 options, I'm sorry.
But that's not what this says. Or that's not the way, I'm sorry, it's not the way I understood it.
Let me go through option 2 and 3, then I think we'll be able to answer the questions. And there's some discussion after the last briefing we had about whether we would move them now or delay that too, because they'd be there relatively by themselves. Option 2 proposes opening up a pre-K, a TK, and 3 kinder classrooms, all dual immersion. And that would occupy the area in light blue that you see.
Where are those numbers, 33 through 34?
Okay, over here. They're not numbered sequentially, unfortunately, because one was added later. It's 30 through 33 and then jump to 34, so we have 5 classrooms.
I can't tell that color. All right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, these would be for our special needs classes.
Oh, I got it. I just wanted
Show the color.
Yeah.
Now, we take a look at the Dual Immersion Academy. We talked about that previously about creating a real unique, neat package at Old Veranda that would be very attractive, that would draw folks in. And if we have any questions on the academic side of it, I would defer to Mary Pritchard, who's our expert. Should you have those now or later. We've packaged what it would cost in terms of teachers, and admin staff, and custodial staff, and that's in your package. It's about $1.1 million, I believe. My glasses on here. $1.15 million. There's some. That number is a worst case number. There'd be some offsets when you move students from other sites. We can't quantify that now until we see where they come from, because while we're doing that, we're reducing class sizes K-3 and moving teachers around to accommodate that whole effort. So it's a little more complicated. It would be predicated on where the students specifically come from for the Dual Immersion Academy. That's option 2. And I would tell you before I discuss option 3 that option 2 is the staff recommendation for implementation. We move into option 3, and in option 3, we establish a Dual Immersion Academy, but we do it in a less concentrated form. We would have a pre-K, a TK, and a kinder that would all be dual immersion. We would then take the other classrooms here, 2, 3, and 4, And they would be classrooms of non-dual immersion to reduce the concentration of students at other sites. And as you know, Cameron is a large school and the classes are big. Roosevelt is bursting at the seams. And so the advantage of option 3 would be there'd be some reduction there. The disadvantage is it would dilute the dual immersion effort for a dual immersion academy, and it would also require a different package with probably a separate principal. And the other big distractor is you don't have a chance for collaboration because you only have one first grade, one second grade, one third grade. Where with the dual immersion package in option 2, you have great collaboration amongst dual immersion teachers with 3 kinder. This just restates some of the numbers with option 2. I'm sorry, it's transportation side of it. Now, let me preface this. You just heard a big transportation brief, and there's huge encroachment. These are worst case numbers with the worst case number of folks that would need to be moved to open option 2, dual immersion. And you can see if we're talking 100 students from TK and K, if no one came from the Veranda area, we would have to move from other sites to Old Veranda. It may mean that we would have to look at a third bell starting time. That's not been popular for parents. And there'd be new routes here that would be added. There could be some offset because if you're moving them here, you're not moving the kids somewhere else. But again, we can't quantify that until we see where the folks come from. A worst case dollar amount, 173 grand. If you had to package that as total additional transportation lifting requirements to move all the kids and not have any efficiencies elsewhere from reducing a route to another school. Is that realistic? I truly believe that's worst case and it's not realistic. My guess is we're probably going to look at a third of that or a half at the most. That'll again be predicated on where people register. And with that, I would ask for any questions you might have before I restate the staff recommendation.
Okay. Board members? Yes, Ms. Barnes?
You mentioned option 2 had some DI students moving. Is that voluntary? Since we have immersion in different schools. Is it
Yes.
a plan?
Mary, would you like to comment on that?
We currently have for incoming tenders for requests for intras and inters, over 80 students that we won't be able to accommodate in the existing
So it's a
sites.
waiting list.
So that would not incur transportation because those are voluntary moves from the families seeking to attend a program. So we can't count on all of them wanting to choose Veranda. Some might choose to go to another option or stay at a different program, in school. But we have a significant waiting list of students at the 3 current sites cannot accommodate for the upcoming school year.
So no one's, it's all voluntary.
Yes. they-
Voluntary, and that reduces the transportation signature. And I think part of this is going to be, we get the front cleaned up a little bit, and it's such a precious little community. We have an open house out there and bring people out and say, welcome to Old Veranda Dual Immersion Academy. You go out there and you don't want to leave unless the wind's blowing 20. And then you might want to get back in your car, but it is really a special place. Other questions? Yes, sir.
What is the guesstimate of the Veranda community going there and leaving Veranda Meadows? Is there a guess? Do you have that?
We haven't gotten that precise yet. I think at the lower grades, when you look at kinder,
Because it's
it's
easier,
kind of, who's going to drive their kid or put a child on a bus if they can just walk to school? And there was a huge push not to close that school, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when Veranda Meadows was built. So we would expect a significant spillover from the walking folks
From the lower grade,
in the lower grades.
TK, K1.
Yeah, pre-K, TK, and K. We don't know the exact population in that old Veranda area.
Right.
We do have a program. We need to load the new numbers for the kids coming in next year to get a pretty accurate number of that. Could well be a third or half.
Okay. Well, I was just seeing what's the one going to the other? And then what happens if we're on the Meadows in terms of number of transportation?
There'd be some adjustments there, absolutely. Take a look at what they lost in terms of classrooms or density. We're reducing some classrooms anyway, some of that work. Remember, we're talking, if we do option 2, which is our strong recommendation, we're looking at new kids coming in that wouldn't be a transfer from another school. They'd start at Old Veranda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Huffman?
I just have a question about the dual immersion. If we had a bunch of people from Veranda area who wanted the kids to just go to our elementary school, do they all have to be dual immersion, or could they choose to have a traditional? That's what
I would comment on that. If some parents there had, let's just say a second grader, or you're talking kinder only?
Okay, well,
Other
let's say
grades?
kinder, okay. We got a bunch of kinders who parents say, no, my kid already speaks Spanish, I want them to learn English. Can we have a class like that? That's what
Well, I think, and I'll let Mary talk to the academic side of it again, but they'll learn both languages there. And
Well, sure.
The data shows that they really will do better as they move through that DI. But
Well, right.
at this point, we would look at making it a dual immersion academy. And if someone wanted a non-dual immersion kinder, we would still transport them.
Well, I was going to say, are we going to exclude the people who don't want to be there? Exclude the people who don't want to do immersion?
Under option 2, we would like to keep it as a pure dual immersion academy. It may be that if we have the demand elsewhere, that would be a board and a superintendent's decision. We have such a sign up right now, a backlog of folks who want to be dual immersion, that it looks like that would, the numbers are in excess of the 75 that we projected for kinder.
Yeah, well, I get that. I'm just kind of wondering if we're going to offer anybody a choice, that's all.
I guess I would say, right now, we're just talking about the students that live around
Right.
the existing campus versus in the old Veranda, we lost a significant number of the population from over in North Salinas. The incoming number of kinder students every year from that neighborhood is probably not significant enough to support
A regular,
programs.
okay.
2 programs, if barely 1, you know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if
It's
there
gonna
was
have
going to
to
be enough.
attract students from outside unless you're looking at major reboundary, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
looking at the Veranda
Okay, then if we did reboundary,
around
you know,
that.
then we could make another decision later down the road, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying guesstimate, and I'm looking at Pat.
Yeah, that's correct. That would be a board decision to do some rebounding, and that's when they need flat vests for. Another question here? Yes.
As an audience member, I was here last week, we discussed this as well, and I understand we have kindergarten students who are waiting list, but I say as a member of the community, why would I want to open up Veranda Meadows and incur all these expenses? What does the district gain? What does our community gain by even entertaining this idea?
Let me,
Why do I want-
if I may, Mr. Stratton, have Dr. Lusa address that for the point, and then couple that with you, because both of you have a very strong position on this.
At the end is to alleviate the rest of the sites. In the long term, we're going to be serving students that if we don't open Veranda, we need to absorb one way or another in the rest of the sites.
Are the sites impacted then, Dr. Lisa?
Yeah, I think, yes, right now we have sites absolutely impacted. Long term, yeah, the school is going to be attracting some students, families from other sites going there by choice. So that's why it's the long term. Short term is enormous. Right now we have, for Lincoln, we have a 67 waiting list for dual immersion. If, let's assume we do nothing, it's a tremendous pressure for Lincoln's community to absorb 60 kindergartens in dual immersion. So this is a way of taking pressure also, being very practical, from the downtown school sites. So yes, if any family wants dual immersion, that's the place that you can go.
But is it a cost-effective way, for example, if you have a site that could also house a dual immersion kindergarten classroom, is that not a less costly way to solve it? I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the numbers of the data. Is this a cost-effective way to address the problem?
If I can comment on that. our growth has been so significant, we've grown 13% in the last 7 years or so. We project continued growth, and the growth in the past few years has been in excess of what we had projected. We're at a point that even if we weren't talking dual immersion academy, we need to open a 14th school because of how full our classrooms are. So the cost would be there whether we did dual immersion with Chinese or whether we did English only. We have a chance right now.
That answers my question, I didn't understand.
Yeah, understand that, and that's why I wanted to clarify that. To do a dual immersion academy right now lets us grow into the school. If we waited 3 years, we'd probably have to slam in the same model we have at 13 other sites or 12 other sites because we're so overcrowded. We have classrooms bursting. The other alternative to that is I bring in new portables and put them in a big school. The school gets bigger and the education delivery gets worse because they're out of control. You know, you end up with an elementary school with 1,000 students, potentially.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome.
I'm going to accept one more question. We're going to move on forward on action item, on the action item.
It's kind of a major decision.
Yeah.
I would just like to know what is the percentage of our inter-district or our district, and then also for Lincoln?
I think Pat Willingham would have that number. I don't know if you have it in your fingers right now, though.
No. Yes, Dr. Luther.
I don't have a percentage, but I can tell you that we just approved 20 kinders for Lincoln's dual immersion program, and those are kinders that currently have siblings at the site. We have, as Mary said, for Veranda Meadows, we have 14 requests for both from intras and inters. At Los Padres, we have 21 requests, inters and intras. And then at Lincoln, we have 56 intras. Those are kids within our schools. And then 38 from outside the district for dual immersion.
We're pretty solid that we have demand. And as a magnet school, you get that additional draw where we have a really special magnet program.
Go ahead.
Mr. President.
There were two hands.
Sorry?
Rosie?
Is the question?
She's gonna ask.
Mire, es muy bueno. Es muy bueno lo que se está hablando, es muy interesante, pero también debemos de pensar de los maestros, porque ahorita tenemos un problema bastante serio, porque las escuelas se quedan con maestros suplentes y esos maestros suplentes, los niños no avanzan, se quedan atrás. Primero hay que pensar en maestros, traer maestros bilingües y culturales, porque ahorita las escuelas se están quedando mucho sin maestros.
She says that this, the whole idea is all good and interesting, that there's a much greater topic that needs to be talked about, which is the teachers, the staffing. We have a very serious problem in this district, she says, being that our classrooms are being staffed by substitute teachers that she feels are not qualified enough to be teaching our students, and they're falling behind. And that is the first thing that should be looked at, is hiring qualified and competent staff that are not only bilingual but bicultural, that can run this kind of program.
Yo he ido a visitar a escuelas y hasta el director está en un salón de clase. El director lo ocupa, los padres lo ocupan y está en un salón de clase porque el maestro no se enfermó, no llegó, no sé, y está el suplente, el director.
She has on occasion visited schools where the principal is nowhere to be found because they are in a classroom having subs because of the problem of shortage of subs. And the principal needs to be accessible to parents in the office and do the job.
Gracias.
Thank you.
For the record, que anuncie su nombre, por favor, para anotarlo.
Silvia Huerta.
La señora Huerta, for the record. And yeah, one more question and we're going to move on. One more question and we're going to move on.
Pamela Connor. So Plan 2 would have no redistricting in the works.
That's
I
correct.
have 3 questions. So no redistricting, and then have we talked with the 67 or 80 people who are interested in the dual immersion program to see if they're interested if it were to be at Old Veranda? Because many of them want the programs because of the sites that they're at, and I'm not sure if they would be as amenable to it at a different site. Old Veranda is lovely, but it's tucked quite out of the way of a lot of things. My concern would be if we aren't able to fill it with a dual immersion program, would we in the future want to do redistricting to fill it? And then what's the eventual capacity of that site? It seems limited by their NPR. I don't know if we've looked at the eventual capacity yet, full size.
I defer Ms. Pritchard on any comments of talking to potential parents or parents of potential students.
I would say we haven't directly reached out, but based on, not formal conversations, I believe a percentage, well, there will be a percentage that might opt for a third option, something other than the school they first requested, not Veranda, and they would go for a third option. But I believe out of it, the majority are very committed to wanting the program and are open to different locations. While they definitely have their preference, it wouldn't be able to, they can't accommodate them at the place that it's open. So I do feel that they would be able to, based on that, and then other interested people that hadn't made that request and families that might then be open to that once it's all ready. Do we need to fill the TK for sure? It already is, because that's always a mobile program, if you would, and no guarantee of continuing at the site that houses TK. And then the other kinder system that we looked at.
Richard, thank you very much.
May I address the NPR
Yeah,
capacity?
sure.
Whether we open Old Veranda as a 14th school with any model specific or as a dual immersion academy, we realize that as we grow, the existing NPR is a transient thing and will be either expanded or reused. It's not adequate for a full-size school of 600 students or 700 students down the road. If we look at all the classrooms and multiply by 25, we're talking over 500 students. At the same token, option 2, the dual immersion model, moving 3 kinder in, gives us growing as next year they become kinder and first, and then kinder first and second, so we can take a look at how we would expand that NPR or build a new one at the northwest corner of the site, where we used to have a preschool. There's some land there that could facilitate a new multi-purpose facility if we need to. Right up in that corner. Yes. So we've thought about that, but that's a growing thing we wouldn't have to face for several years.
That's good that you brought us up to date on the item itself. I want to thank you and your colleagues for doing so. But I owe an apology to the young lady way in the back, kept raising her hand.
Young lady, thank you for calling me young.
And she's sitting right here in front, dressed, is that a black blouse or skirt?
All I'm saying is Jennifer Zanzo from Mission Park would like to also say that University Park and Mission Park, our population has probably exceeded the capacity of the multipurpose room. Put us on that list. That's all.
Okay, that's a good question, but we'll get around to that, okay? Ms. Rodriguez, and then I'm going to close it because I don't see any other hands.
I just want to make sure I understood, because I had asked a clarifying question before the meeting. I understood option 1, nobody's going to go out there next year, but then
We showed initially last week, 2 weeks ago, that we were prepared to move special needs students out there because we had to recapture some classrooms at Lincoln, and there was some discussion about the merits of doing that and having them alone or not. So that would be negotiable. At any rate, the cost was minimal, and if they do stay at Lincoln, then we've got to look at perhaps a new portable at about $100,000 a portable.
Okay, I thought when you had showed the first map, I thought you were showing that they are going out there.
Could be.
It's only a
But-
could be.
And I think not was the decision at this point, to not proceed with special needs in year 1 if option 1 was selected.
as an information
Vice option 2 or 3.
an option,
Yeah.
but now today.
But I was confused because when you presented.
And I addressed the slide incorrectly. I'm
I
sorry.
understand this is a very exciting item. Everyone's jumping out of the seats, raising their hands,
New schools are great.
answering questions, having dialogue. We are going to have an advisory group attached to this process.
I believe so.
And one question back there, I can't, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Lorraine Delatory. The idea is all great and everything. My concern is what happens if we don't get enough to start the school? Are you just gonna let it sit and, I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, if you've got 60-some people ready to go, or even 3 kinders, and for some reason, you know, you never know. They change their mind, or they moved, or we have such a fluctuant population in the city, and all of a sudden classrooms start and you're gonna put, what, 12 in each classroom? I mean, it puts a lot of time and effort to hire these teachers, especially dual immersion teachers, which are rare and hard to find, especially qualified ones. I mean, what do we do with them if there's not enough? Or if we wait too late and we can't find enough teachers to fill it?
Yeah, I would think we'd need to get the teachers lined up early, number one. And if the demand dwindled, it might be 2 instead of 3 classes. That would be determined
I mean,
with
how-
staff recommendation to the board.
Okay, because
We're-
how small before you don't open
Right.
it is what I'm worried
We're-
about.
We wouldn't envision 10 or 12 person classes for dual immersion K though. Although that would be really nice if we could afford that.
I mean, if we dream across the district, we can dream, that's real.
I got you. I got you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you very much. Okay? And we're going to close public comment right now and move on to the item in action. Okay?
It's an action item.
Yeah, we're moving into the item in action. Okay? And I'm entertaining a motion on the recommendation of the administration and its people that helped to put together. Yeah. It took a lot of people to put this together. Okay? I get a motion?
Motion to approve reopening Veranda Elementary School under option 2.
Okay, I get a motion on the floor. And there's a second by Ms. Barnes. Okay, any discussion on this? Colleagues, board members?
Well, I'd just like to say that I think dual immersion is great. I think kids learning 2 languages, that's the way to go. But I have the same concern about the size. You know, I mean, if we don't have enough, can we open it up for people who want a first grade there, or take some kids from the, from Veranda Meadows? I don't know. I don't want to limit it. Just if the numbers work out, we don't have enough.
You know, the comment on this, if I may, and I'm particularly, I'm in favor of this, so you already know my vote, but at the same time, what we need to understand is that this is in the planning stages for a number of months. And even the vision was opened up a year ago, a year and a half ago, about doing this. And I know that the staff has the confidence in itself to pull it together and make sure that it gets done. Because we got overloaded schools, and hopefully we'll get other students from those schools wanting to be there, and it's open to the community immediately right there called Veranda. Okay? So I understand what you're saying, because I can't take a wish list and project out there, but there's been a lot of planning going on. A lot of planning going on, because the vision of growth, you have to catch up with it before it passes you up. And then you're not accomplishing much when you have overcrowded classrooms or overcrowded schools, or neighbors that don't like you because you have too many kids walking in and out of the school site, or too many buses coming by. But at the same time, we're looking at lowering enrollments, expanding opportunity of academic instruction, as well as social skills that are needed throughout our neighborhoods. And we've got neighborhoods already talking, saying yes. Okay? So what I'd like for you to do is either vote yes or no on recommendation 2. It sounds like we have a solid recommendation from the motion and a second to that. But at the same time, I allow my other colleagues over here to speak on behalf of the motion.
I mean, I mostly, but also, I think that if there's enough interest or group of students that want an EO class, or we still can have, that live in Berkeley, they still can house them there. It's not where, because what is it, it's the third, isn't that what we're gonna do? Yeah, demographics, so there'll be a third of both, and a third EO, and so there'll be opportunities for every kid, every student. That's what I'm seeing.
Every student that wants a DI class.
And it's all, it's a dual immersion academy.
That's well put,
So,
colleague, at the same time, but I won't allow, when you finish, I'll allow Mr. Kim to continue. He has taken on this one way or the other, but it's there. And then Ms. Willingham, you can speak to that too also, from the faculty point of view.
With your permission, I'd
Yes,
just like
thank
to
you.
add that I think one of the things that might help you in lessening your concern about us having enough students, the information that I gave you was information just in regards to the parents that want their children to come into our current dual immersion schools. The parents at Cammon don't know that this is a possibility. We haven't been able to actually provide them with information and see how many of those parents would like to have their students in a dual immersion and in a close by location. So if we can draw even a few of our kinders from Cammon, then that's going to help us reduce our enrollment at Cammon. So I know it's a concern, and I share your concern. We don't want to be spending money and then not have the students there. But I honestly think that when we do a real reach out to the parents at Cammon in particular, and even Laurelwood and University Park, even just within that side of town, we will be able to pick up enough students. And I do want to address one other thing, because I think it's very important.
Go ahead.
That we are looking at this, that the board is voting on a dual immersion academy. I think it's crucial that it be one program, and that the parents who have English-only children are making the choice to put their children in a program where they're going to learn Spanish as well as instruction in English. So in my mind, they have choice, and they have choice either at their home school or a school nearby, such as Rhonda Meadows, for structured English immersion. But that this, we are voting on opening a dual immersion academy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barnes. And then we're going to go back to the, I'm going to call the vote.
I just wanted to say, I feel there's strong public interest in the dual immersion courses. We have 80 people waiting, really be multicultural, multilingual, performing arts, and it will accommodate and reduce the incoming kinders, and that's what we're trying to do.
We're working forward, and I'm going to call for a vote on this. You take roll call on this? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Say none. 5-0. Okay, let me have your attention, please. Second, we're going to close the meeting and go into closed session. But does anyone in the audience have a question or concern about items in closed session? That would be student disciplinary issue, public employment. That's our personnel. This is the personnel selection under superintendent interview process. Questions and procedure. Okay. Do I hear any? Say none. Okay, we're going into closed session. Okay, thank you. Convening into closed session.
Just quickly, yes.